Hello again. Welcome to Beacon of Speech. Hey Ted, how are you doing?
Okay, how you doing, Fred?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. We had a near miss. We got postponed. We packed everything up, and then we are right back where we started from. So, let's do the introduction. What is Beacon of Speech? Beacon of Speech is about selling freedom of speech to everyone. If we had a copy of the First Amendment, if this was TV, I would show it to you, or we'd put a scroll on the bottom, but that's not what we are. We're a webcast. Free speech is under constant assault in America today. The problem is it's coming from two places that's very hard to fight. From the left, PC madness, and from the right, corporations, which we are going to beat on and on and on about today is corporations. The concept that we're all in this is lost in America. America is supposed to lead by example, not force its will onto other countries. What are limits to free speech, Ted? I'm going to make it a quiz because I'm reading off my prepared statement like I do every week.
Limits to free speech.
Yes.
Pure evil?
Pure evil, yay! You get a shiny nickel. And I will have to pay you Tuesday for that nickel today. Evil is debatable, which, it just is. Pure evil is absolute. Think of ISIS or Nazis.
Right.
What else is pure evil? Mayhem, the band? I don't know. We can negotiate that. Let's start today with right from the start. Freedom of speech is under attack every single day. And, sometimes I say it, but I don't really mean it. I mean, I mean it, but I wonder, is free speech literally under attack every single day of the year in America?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Because I'm telling you what, when I first started with the concept, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm over exaggerating, but I went on. I don't usually go on to Blaze, but I went on to Blaze earlier this week. There were two articles, and I'm gonna hold one up for Ted. It is college newspaper loses thousands in funding after publishing negative Black Lives Matter opinion piece. Well, basically, somebody wrote an article. Here's what it is: Why Black Lives Matter isn't what you think. And then within a few days, and of course I'm reading from the Blaze, within a few days, according to the author of the piece, all hell broke loose. Hundreds of copies of the student newspaper were destroyed, anonymous social media apps buzzed with negativity directed at the paper and the author. And see, the internet is much, maybe they can't shut down free speech, but they can shame free speech into the ground.
Right.
And I'm like, wow.
So much for tolerance.
Yeah, so much for tolerance on campuses. But the only reason that I specifically brought it up, we say it at the beginning of every show, but the very next article was Ted Cruz says he cannot overstate the threats to internet freedom, independent news websites like Drudge. Okay, now we talked about that last week.
Right.
But of course it got erased because of my itchy trigger finger. And when it's coming from the other opposite end, because it was the NFL. It wasn't PC Madness. It was the NFL that was shutting down smaller websites. And it granted the Drudge Report corporations. Now, granted, I don't know if it's left wing people who are trying to shut down Drudge. I think what it is it's these giant billion-dollar multinational corporations that don't want their headlines used. Well, again, is it from the left or from the right? Well, it's coming from both ends.
Yeah.
And in America, you should be able to, speak your piece and have, reasonable discord. And this just, someone's pounding on our walls. Someone is trying to close down our free speech.
We have to move.
Yeah, we have to, our free speech, I remember when I was learning in social studies, right? They said you have free speech all you want, but there's going to be repercussions. You can go out to the corner and get a milk crate and flip it upside down and take a megaphone and scream all you want at the corner. Nobody's going to listen to you. What we do is me and you basically have the equivalent of a digital megaphone. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's repercussions, but if somebody writes, something's not what it appears to be, well, as long as they're not slandering somebody, there should be reasonable discourse, not you cannot speak.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in our tin can. I did notice when we were listening, this is one of the things we have to address, and not to get off the freedom of speech issue, but we sound like we're in a tin can. We're on the Apollo 13 on our way to the moon. Okay, we have a fairly decent sized office. So that is one of the things I want to listen to and address for the next episode. So if you're actually, paying attention to us, I do appreciate it. But when you're getting it from the left and from the right, nobody from the right seems to understand that the left has the right to say what they want, and it's the same thing from the left. I read another article, and I wish I would have printed it out, right? And the girl basically said that that religion should not have free speech because religion teaches intolerance. And it's like that's the most dangerous person in the world right there. It doesn't matter which religion you pick, unless you want to pick that Scientology, which is a scam. But you could turn around and
don't
say,
tell Tom Cruise that.
"Oh yeah, Tom Cruise." Yeah, don't start us down that road. But go ahead. What were you going to say? I interrupted.
I was going to say you said that Ted Cruz was basically defending free speech, right?
He was defending free speech. Okay. Yes, he says the corporations are coming to shut down free speech.
And he's a pretty big conservative.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, again, usually the rule of thumb is listen to right-wing talk radio, read left-wing media, right? Well, that's why usually I don't go on the Blaze, okay? Because I hear enough of Glenn Beck during the day when I'm turning on the sports stuff. But that's why I'm like, wow, it's coincidental that they weren't the first two stories, it was like the fourth and fifth story. And see, now I feel like, and I don't know if you can hear it on the headset, but they're pounding on the walls. And it's Joe Kaufman, who's supposed to be in the empty chair at the end of the thing. And he's yanking my chain, and I feel like I'm with my 17-year-old girlfriend, and I'm 18, and somebody's banging on the door.
I can't work under these conditions.
These conditions are unacceptable. I am distracted. But that darn Joe Kaufman, he's supposed to be in here. We should text him, why aren't you in here? And then he would say that we are too loud. Our free speech is too loud. We need to have quieter free speech.
Yeah. You can say what you want, just keep it down.
Yeah, say what you cannot have a megaphone. Joe is the loudness police, and he is telling us that we have to have our free speech across the street, and he's taking away our megaphone. We have to be 30 feet away from the building.
Yeah, we have a restraining order.
Well, I'm sure restraining orders are coming, I'm sure. So anyhow, what else? What else did I want to say about conservative? I almost said Tom Cruise because you were talking about Scientology. Okay. Ted Cruz. Okay. Blah 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 blah. I've been leading the fight against that. The administration views the internet as a threat. So according to Ted Cruz, Obama thinks the internet's a threat. Well, I don't believe that Obama thinks that. And again, it's not we're all in this together. Well, Obama thinks the left. He just doesn't want to hear what you have to say. Just like you don't want to hear what he has to say. Cruz also cited plans to relinquish U.S. control of the internet as a move that would profoundly undermine U.S. interests and undermine free speech. Well, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. The First Amendment is very clearly in the American Constitution. There is no First Amendment. What is the First Amendment in the Russian Constitution, which we always go back to, the Russian Constitution? I think the First Amendment is, what, borscht and vodka? Oh!
You have the right to drink antifreeze?
You can drink whatever doesn't kill you, you're allowed to drink. That is the First Amendment in Russia. You know what? We're gonna get in more trouble in Russia. Do you ever plan on traveling to Russia?
No.
Okay, because I don't think we're gonna be able to visit our comrade Who's the Edward Snowden?
Oh,
We
yeah.
cannot visit our compatriot. So, but yeah, I'm glad that Ted Cruz is a guy standing up for freedom of speech. I don't believe that for one. I do not believe that for 1 second. Are you voting for Ted Cruz?
I might.
Fair enough. We're not in a political debate. There's 17 guys to choose from. You could rate them. Like I said on the Glenn Beck show, they rated them from like 1 to 17. Which one do you most want? Which one do you least want? Which one was abomination? Which one's awesome? And wasn't Ted Cruz like one of the guys you wanted? And then the guy you don't want is what, Bush or Trump?
Yeah, I know. I know. On Glenn Beck, they're pretty high on Ted Cruz.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not voting for him.
And Bobby Jindal and.
Yeah, I'm
Now,
not
are
voting
you
for
still
him.
going third party?
I'm going third party. As a matter of fact, I might have to go a different third party. Maybe Gary Johnson is too mainstream for me. Do they still have the parties that get like 14 votes, like Mr. Bugs Bunny or something? I think I might go all the way down the line because you can vote for 30 different people.
Now I heard that Jim Webb might go independent.
Yeah, I don't know. Would he be a good? Gary Johnson, Jim Webb? All I know
Well,
is
Jim Webb was a Democrat, but he.
I could not watch the debates. I couldn't watch the Democratic debates. I already knew how that was going to skewer, right? And then Jim Webb, all I heard on him was on the news going, I ain't get enough time. I ain't get enough time. It was like, yeah, you didn't get enough time. You're Jim Webb or Jack Webb. Jack Webb.
Is it
Dragnet.
Oh, that's Jack Webb?
Is that Jack Webb from Dragnet?
I don't know.
You know, I feel really bad, and I wanted to bring this up because I was reading an article on CNN, and they said the lead singer of Three Dog Night died.
Yeah, I saw that last night.
And I always liked Three Dog Night. They were good.
I thought of you when I saw the crawl. Is that what they called?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And they said, oh, he's 73 years old. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I don't like that guy. I like the other guy with the bushy mustache, the one who did so much coke it blew a hole in his nose.
Well, wait a minute. That's not the same guy?
No, according to the article, they said that they all sang. So they were all lead singers. And I'm like, no.
See, I didn't know. I don't know that much about them.
Yeah, and that's why I was confused. I'm like, no, it was the one who died was the blonde guy. But see, this is where I feel bad, and me and you were talking about this earlier today. I don't mean to be disrespectful, right? It's just that I'm not that smart, apparently, when it comes to Three Dog Night. So, but I don't want to offend any of the families, and, you know, I think I downloaded a few Three Dog Night songs, but they're on classic rock all the time. And that's why I'm like, well, I don't mean to offend people, and, you know, sometimes it comes out that way.
See, I didn't know that wasn't the guy who. I thought it was the one that you were mentioning.
Yeah, the one with the long brown
Yeah.
hair, the crazy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, now, again, I don't have it in front of me. I don't have the website because I don't want to erase the sound file like I did last week.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that the one guy sang most of the songs, and then he left Three Dog Night, and then the other two are like, well, we're still the lead singers too. And they're still at, you know, the Cuyahoga County Fair at the end of the street. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's back to the Three Dog Night Incorporated. You know what I mean? So, and me and you could talk classic rock for, you know, 2 hours. I'm just saying the point is that I don't know that much about it. And at the end of the day, I don't care. Okay? I mean, it's sad and, you know, it's almost like a footnote, but, you know, it's more relevant than, you know, half the stuff on CNN. You know what I mean? So at least that's newsworthy. You know, Three Dog Night was very pop. I think I read something like they were the band of the year in 1973. But that shows you in 1973 how bad music sung.
Yeah.
Can you name the song of the year in 1973?
Song of the year in 1973.
Yeah, if they said they were the band of the year, it had to have been Joy to the World, right?
Oh, I have no idea.
Well, they are naming all their hits. I'm like, oh yeah, they sang that, and I feel that way about like Todd Rundgren. I'm like,
They had a song called One.
Yes, one is
Oh,
the
okay, all right.
loneliest night. See, if you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, I've heard on the classic rock stations 100 times.
Yeah. Yeah, because I saw that they mentioned 3 different songs, and I knew 2 of them. Then I saw one, and I'm like, which one is that?
Yeah.
But
And that's the
I
whole
should have
thing.
known that.
And see, that's why Ted Coley is our resident classic rock aficionado. Except for you're letting me down on Three Dog Night. You're like, we're gonna
Yeah,
have to
that's
change
one
the
of my
subject.
blind spots.
Your blind spot. We could talk about rumors from Fleetwood Mac
Yeah.
for the next 3 hours. But so back to Ted Cruz. So we are under attack from corporations, according to Ted Cruz, which is rich, right? Republicans, the party of corporations, blah blah blah, right? And it got me thinking, and I was thinking about this all day, okay? And the reason I bring it up is I was trying to think today, when was the last song that I totally loved? What piece of music did I love so much I wanted to hear it like it was a drug? You know what I mean? And I'm like, wow, what was the last song? Because when I was a kid, I'm like, oh, this song is great. And 2 days later, this is my new favorite song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the last song, it was about 5 years ago. It's not our song of the day because I'll probably make it song of the day later. But it's called Song 26 by the Austerity Program. And it made the song that's today's song of the day, it made it sound like, We Are the World. Okay? But it made me think back, when did I start to hate corporations, right? Because when you get out of school, you're like, well, you got to get a job,
Yeah.
right? And gonna get a job and you got to work for a corporation. This is the necessary evil of growing up, right? And you don't like corporations, but someone's got to pay you. You can't. When did I start to hate corporations? Now, I have a note to talk about this, but the story's all in my head. Okay, it must have been about 1993 or 4. And I was having a lot of problems in lower management at Taco Bell. Okay, I worked at Taco Bell for many, many years, and I tried to black it out. Okay, the exact moment I started to hate corporations, and I'm going to underline this and I'm going to wrap it up. I'm crumpling it up and throwing it away, is the story of Dennis. I threw the paper across the Ted. I don't think he appreciates having things thrown at him. Dennis at Taco Bell. Now, do you know anybody at Taco Bell named Dennis?
No.
Well, of course you don't. When I first got my job at Taco Bell when I was 17, 18 years old, I'm washing dishes and, I know up from down. I was big dumbass, right? Kind of like
Now, you were 17 or 18?
Yeah, 17.
That wasn't the first job you had.
Oh,
was
yeah,
it?
yeah.
It was your very first job?
Yeah, because I played high school soccer. And then once I got out of high school soccer is when I started working, like a month later. So.
Okay, so are you saying you've just had 2 jobs?
No, I had a few other jobs in between.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, where was your first job?
My first job was at Henry's Buy-Right.
Is Henry's Buy-Right even still there? Is there still Buy-Right?
No.
There's one. I know there's a Buy-Right in Avon.
It's a smoking hole now or whatever. No, it's no longer there. It's something else. It's like a beauty parlor or something. I don't know.
Okay, my first job was Taco Bell, and then while I worked at Taco Bell, I worked at Toys R Us for a season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I left Taco Bell to come to my glorious job, which I will not name right now. But you can find it out. It's real easy. We'll probably talk about it in 2 weeks when I'm aggravated anyhow. But when I first started, there was a Southland Taco Bell. You know where Southland is in Millwood Heights. And they had a Taco Bell, and it was run by this genius, and his name was Dennis. Okay?
Now, by any chance, was that on Pearl?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think I know it had the old Taco Bell.
Yeah. And then
now it's something else,
now
right?
it's like a Subway.
Yeah,
and then they built a brand new Taco Bell.
But it's still that same old building.
Yeah.
It's like.
And so once in a while, we would have to trade managers, trade employees. You'd go to meetings, and you'd see other people. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so right from the start, I learned about Dennis. That guy, he's the smartest guy in Taco Bell. That guy's who you want to be when you grow up. And I'm like, actually, I take that back. My friend Cliff wanted to be Glenn Bell, and then that didn't work out. There really was a guy named Bell. That's how it got to be Taco Bell. But he wanted to be Dennis from Southland. Dennis from Southland has perfect numbers. Dennis from Southland promotes more managers than anybody else. All I ever heard my whole life was Dennis from Southland. He's awesome. Well, I talked to people who worked for him, and they said he was a ball buster. They couldn't sleep. You get calls at 3 in the morning. You got to go do this. His numbers were perfect. Everything was perfect about Dennis's stores, right? And at one point, it must have, again, 93 or 94, my name came up once I went from, dumb employee up to shift manager. They're like, oh, well, would you have any interest in working for Dennis? I said, hell no, that guy is a maniac, okay? He's going to have me taking the toothbrush and scrubbing slop sinks, okay? And then he's going to take all the credit that he shined the slop sink. That's the way Dennis was. But I never heard one bad thing about him. Like, he was perfect. The reason people didn't like him is because if everything wasn't perfect, it sucked, right? And
So he was like the soup Nazi.
yeah, like the soup Nazi. Good analogy.
There's your Seinfeld reference.
Yeah, every episode we're gonna have. So Dennis was perfect. Okay. One day I'm talking to one of the other managers. I'm like, oh hey, how you doing? Blah. Oh hey. Did you hear what happened to Dennis? I'm like, no. And Dennis, he was only like maybe 5'4", about 150 pounds. Right? So I'm like, oh, did he have a heart attack from being a maniac? And they're like, oh, no. And I said, oh, did he get hit by a truck because one of his former employees drove him crazy? They're like, no, you really don't know what happened to Dennis from Southland. Oh, and this is why I have freedom of speech, so I can tell stories like this. Taco Bell can suck it, okay? But anyhow, so I'm like, no, what happened to Dennis, right? And they're like, the police came. The police came and they escorted Dennis from his Taco Bell. And I said, well, what did he do? I said, did he take advantage of one of the 16-year-old girls? Because it had been so ingrained in me for 6, 7, 8 years that he was perfect, that I never, ever thought that it had to do with not running a good Taco Bell, right? So they're like, no, they took him out. And I said, well, how is that? And they said, well, the district manager, blah, blah, blah. And I can't even remember his name, which... Well, here's why I showed you that video. That's why that song is the song of the day that we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. Because it's all the same. I don't remember his name, right?
Oh, they're all
the same. Yeah. They're all clones, right? So whoever the district manager was, he didn't want to do any work. So not only did Dennis make his branch perfect, but he did all the paperwork for the district because he wanted to be promoted. He wanted to be the next district manager. And of course, I got to be the next district manager because all my numbers are perfect. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, and of course, the district manager at the time was like, oh, well, when the zone manager promotes me, I'll promote you, and then you'll be, you know how it is. And Ted's nodding. He's got a smile on his face because he knows how it is, right? And so the cops take Dennis out of the store, and I'm like, what do you mean they took him out of the store? Did he molest that 16-year-old? They're like, no. He was doing the district manager's work while the district manager was learning how to do the zone manager's work, right? And one of the things that you do as a district manager is you have to order equipment for all the Taco Bells, in the area, right?
So he was doing the job that he wanted.
He was doing the job that he wanted, not the job that he had. The job that he had...
I just got to chill.
The job that he wanted, right? That was his challenge. The job that he had, he delegated and then scared the crap out of those people. And if they didn't do it right, he was gonna fire them or chase them out of the state. You'll never work at Taco Bell again.
You'll never work in fast food.
Yeah, you'll never work in fast food again. No. So Dennis, so they take him out, and I said, well, what'd they do? I said, well, they put him in the back and they talked to him and blah blah blah. And then he came back in. They didn't arrest him. They just took him out. And
the police.
Yeah, the police. So the police take him out, and he takes, like his bag. I'm pointing at my bag, like you can see it. But he takes his bag. He takes a few little things off the desk, and he leaves. Well, what happened? when he was doing the district manager's jobs, he was in charge of ordering all the equipment for all the Taco Bells in the district, right? So once they trusted him, Dennis would order 2 heating units, right? And then he would take one of the heating units and then he'd send it to like Strongsville, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other heating, well, maybe I can't remember if Taco Bell had a Strongsville branch that year, but one of the branches in the area, right? And he would take it and he would send it to whatever branch it had to go to, and then he ordered a second one, and then he would sell it to his friend, who was a building manager, and then they would split the money. So say it was $1,000, it'd be $500. The rumor was is that he made between $100,000 and $200,000 on the side, and nobody caught him.
Oh man!
Right? So what they did is they basically said, we do not want to spend the money to prosecute you if you just agree to walk away. We don't file charges as long as you disappear.
Wow.
And again, by the time, and let's just say he stole $100,000, okay, just for a number. In their heads, they're like, you stole less money than it would probably take for us to get our corporate lawyers to prosecute you. You see what I'm saying? And ever since that day, because I tried to narrow down the day I hated corporations, I think it was that day, because I came in, I'm like, I told you Dennis was a jerk. Oh, you know what? Dennis wasn't that bad. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Dennis wasn't that bad, and everybody makes money. He made 100,000 mistakes. He ran 2 sets of books. There was one ledger here. There was one ledger here. The guy was stealing money, and the only reason he didn't get prosecuted and sent to jail was because they were making a monetary business decision.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you know what? Dennis did a lot of good things. You never talk about the good things that, you know, Dennis used to donate cups to the local church for the...
And Mussolini made the trains run on time.
Yeah, back in the... And that's the whole thing. Everything, it's not weighted towards right or wrong. And
I mean,
again,
talk about like no deterrent. I mean...
Oh, no. And like I said, let's just say that you got a poor person, which is possible, somebody working at Taco Bell for $8 an hour, and say
So basically his choice was, okay, you can stay here at Taco Bell, but we're going to prosecute you.
Yeah.
It's like, is he really going to choose that?
Yeah, we're going to prosecute you, or you can just walk away. And the only reason I know is because, you know, he lived in the same city I lived in. His house, the back of his house was actually at the soccer fields where we used to practice. So I knew right where he lived. And they said he was just sitting on the back porch. You know, you'd see him out. You know what I mean? I assume he had to have got another job. He wasn't 65 years old.
Yeah.
But that's how things work. But if I say anything, and me and you have this conversation at least 20 times this year. If I say anything about, you know, for years and years, I said Dennis is doing something shady. There's no way his numbers can be so perfect. Oh, Fred, why don't you leave Dennis alone? Poor Dennis. But yes, poor Dennis. Poor Dennis stole $100,000 and did not give it back.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, but you don't read about it in the newspaper, right? And you only, you know, it's the whistleblower. We brought up Edward Snowden. And Edward Snowden, what he did was wrong, and I got air quotes, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, Edward Snowden was the messenger. You shot the messenger. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, he was just telling us what the NSA was doing, right? Well, he was exercising his free speech. Oh, no, he was given, you know, all kind of classified secrets. And it's just not the case. He wasn't. Well, he was, but everything wasn't classified. You know, as we talk today, all I heard about was Hillary Clinton's emails. Were they classified or were they not classified?
Right.
And so...
No, she's testifying today,
yeah, she's testifying. And
but is that Benghazi?
Yeah, it's Benghazi and the emails. And
it's all
one happy ball.
It's like a potpourri of...
Yeah. But again, she's trying to play the corporate game of... Oh, those emails? Oh, I barely know how to use a computer. You barely knew how to use a computer, but you sent 60,000 emails while you were Secretary of State. Ted, I don't know if I've sent 1,000 emails in my whole life. Okay, and I send emails, I write places. There 60,000 emails in what? How long was she secretary of state? 5 years?
Yeah, something like that.
So it again goes back to, do you shoot the messenger? Well, what's the message? The message is, did you not know how to use a computer? Or did you not send 60,000 emails? It's not both. And that's how corporations are. Corporations are all, this group think, right? But like I said, they're not, they're like light evil. You know what I mean? You could come back and say all the things you don't like about Fred. Fred listens to horrible death metal music. Well, does that make Fred evil? Or does it mean that he has some blind spots in his taste? Well, it's the same thing with corporations. But corporations, they whitewash everything, and they're like, no, everything's perfect. And then
So that was the very moment you started to hate
corporations. Yep. And you know what? I should have learned back then. Instead, I'm like, oh no, that doesn't always happen. But it seems like every year, because what we do now, we're in and out of corporations all day long. And it seems like I hear stories like this all the time. Oh, I remember my mom and dad, they used to go to a bank, okay? And I'm writing it down, but I'm not going to say it out loud. Okay, I'm writing it down. This bank right there, right? You know who that is.
Yeah.
And they used to be one of your customers,
Right.
right? And they had a teller who stole hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, they took her out of there and they charged her. And, it was real easy because, they found her system and then she walked into the trap. You know what I mean? Once they got tipped off, they're like, oh, well, here's the trap.
Right.
You know what I mean? So she walked into it, and then, of course, there was no deal like a Taco Bell. I think she served, because she was I almost said it, because she was not a man. Well, let's put it that way.
Yes.
I think that they were a little more lenient with
Yeah.
it. So, but like I said, sometimes it's the other way. Sometimes, you get off because you're a man. Sometimes you don't get off. I think it just depends on the situation. I'm not making a broad generalization about that. I think in this case, that's why it was.
Mm-hmm.
Now Ted's looking at me all stunned.
Yeah. That's shocking.
But yeah, but
That's also.
But say the news media gets.
That's my bank.
Oh, is it really? It was 10 years ago. It was a long time. And the branch where it was in my parents' hometown, and they closed it. Now it's like it was a business I had never heard of. It was like dog babysitting. It wasn't a kennel. It was like dog costumes or something I didn't even know existed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, holy cow, who would have thought that building would have went from a bank to a dog retreat? They got the dog psychologist, and I was flipping through the stations with my daughter, and I was looking just yesterday, and they have a channel called Fido. Okay, it's a dog channel. Well, when they came out with Animal Planet, okay, I mean to spit there. I'm sorry. When they came out with Animal Planet, I'm like, that'll never work. Who in the hell is going to watch a channel about dogs or about animals?
Yeah.
And now it's one of the most popular channels. Like, everybody has it.
Yeah.
I said, who's going to watch Food Network? And now what? There's 3? Isn't there like 3? So it shows you how dumb I am. I don't know crap about crap. Okay? So I'm not saying I'm always right, because I'm not. But would you, when me and you were kids, and there were like, what, 6 channels, 8 channels?
Tops.
And if I would have told you when you were 10 years old there'd be a channel called Fido, would you have believed that in us?
No.
No. So somebody's got to be, some corporation figured that out, and they're like 10 times smarter than me.
I think that there's still the same amount of good shows on that there was when we were kids. It's just gotten more watered down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so so what you're saying is basically, say, I don't know what you have on WoW, okay? But say you have 200 channels. Basically what you're saying is, when you were a kid, there were 8 channels, but you watched 7 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're saying, now that you're an old man, right? Now that you're an old man,
Middle-aged.
there's 200 channels on your WoW package, and 8 of them are good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think what you're seeing now is all the shows that got basically shot down like when we were kids.
Right.
Now you're seeing them on all these different channels. So these are shows you never should have seen.
Yeah. Now I just looked at our empty chair. Should we pound on the wall back and see if our empty chair guy is coming in?
See how they like it.
Go, you crazy kids, keep it down. Okay. So anyhow, song of the day. We'll go there first. Song of the day. I always pick a song of the day. Song of the day is a song called "Clones" by Evil Blizzard. Evil Blizzard. I can't say they're punk. I can't say they're metal. I don't know what the hell they are.
They're scary.
They're scary. Well, it's Halloween. That's another reason I picked it. It looks like they're all in their Halloween costume before they like murder the family next door. But the song's "Clones," and it goes out to all the Dennises of the world, because we had an old boss. His name was Ray. Okay, and I remember telling one of my coworkers, I'm like, oh, I know Ray. And they're like, how do you know Ray? I'm like, because they're all clones. They're all the same. But once you get to a certain point, there's a cookie cutter for it. And I said, I had managers like Ray at Taco Bell all the time, right? And you just have to know, how to work the angles and work the system and understand, what you're dealing with. Say what they want to hear, and then do what you need to do.
Now, you've never seen Dennis since?
Oh, no. Well, yeah, I saw him. Okay, the cops took him out. Okay, cops took him out. He walked back in. I saw him on the soccer fields. We were goofing around. We saw him in the backyard.
Yeah.
But I never saw him at another Taco Bell. I never saw him working.
So you have no idea what he's doing today?
No, as far as I know, he took that $100,000, and that's his retirement nest egg. And he's sitting in a folding chair in his backyard swatting flies, because that had been about 20 years ago. So he's about retirement age now.
Yeah.
So hopefully he invested it, like our old guy who ran the pizza place. Hopefully he invested his winnings well. So
John.
Yeah, John. So our song of the day is "Clones" by Evil Blizzard. Now, Ted, what did you think of "Clones"?
I didn't like it.
Was it now, because you're my classic rock aficionado? Would you say that was rock, even rock music? What kind of classification would you put that in?
Oh man, I don't even know. It's not the rock I listen to.
No, it's more like the closest thing to me it reminds me a little bit of Mr. Bungle, but you don't know who that is either. But like I said, for some reason,
Mr. Bunghole?
No, Bungle.
Oh.
Mr. Bunghole, I think that is a Beavis and Butthead sketch. Oh, I did. I wrote down, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I did write down another entertainment thing. See, I'm showing Ted, I'm waving it in the air.
Oh.
This week I wrote down, my topic was Jim Carrey PR machine. And, talking about pieces of work. Jim Carrey, breaks up with his girlfriend. She kills herself 2 days later. He's like, I always loved her. He shows up at the funeral. He's carrying the casket, and all that is PR, so you don't stop watching his movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you loved her, you wouldn't have broke up with her. And if she had a...
But he was one of the pallbearers?
He was one of the pallbearers.
Wow.
And the funny thing is that he wasn't...
And she was like pretty young, too.
Oh yeah, right? She was like 30 or something. And again, it's not like he broke up with her because she had a problem. After the fact, he's like, oh, she had a problem. And it's like, people, all it is... Okay, let me say it for the record. Do not sue Ted Coley, okay? Are you writing this down? Or do not sue Fred Hunt. Fred Hunt says Jim Carrey is a PR machine. That whole ruse about him going to the funeral. And again, don't shoot the messenger. If you loved her so much, why'd you break up with her? Maybe if you didn't break up with her, she wouldn't have killed herself. Mm-hmm. Well, people who are addiction experts might say, well, you know what, Jim Carrey did, but you don't know the situation. Well, that's right. I don't know the situation.
He was practicing tough love.
Yes. So they could have been like, he could have been practicing tough love. No. if that was true, and we're only going by actions, right? Let's say that was true, okay? Why would you show up at the funeral and make it all about, oh no, I still loved her? Why would you like find the brightest camera light you could and be like, oh no, I always loved her? You're not in the corner or say respect my privacy. No, I want everybody to know that I always loved that girl.
When he said that, was he talking with his butt?
He's bent over like an Ace Ventura, pulling his ass cheeks apart. I always love. Wait, I don't know if I can do the voice. I'm not that good at it. I don't have any range, Ted. My range is shut. He's like, I always love that girl. I think you got to be bent over with your head between your legs. I think something about the being upside down helps it. But yeah, so very clearly, that was me. So that was me who said it. Jim Carrey is a PR machine. So you want to talk a little bit about sports? Are you tired of sports?
I can talk about sports.
Okay. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I want to bring this up. We adopted 3 sports teams. And we'll start with the easiest first, is Armor Gaborska. Is that our Gaborsk? I already forgot. All I know is that if you go to khl.en.ru for Russia, they're 11-13. They're in the middle of the pack, so they're doing okay. Look under AMUR. You don't have to read the second part. So they're doing average. They're doing okay. Our Russian team is doing okay, but it's early in the season. So we have lots of time to figure out how good they're doing or how bad they're doing, right? Middle of the pack, any sport, as long as you're in the middle of the pack, basically every sport you can name except for baseball, half the teams go into the playoffs, right? So we don't have to pay close attention to that. Now the other thing is Swansea City. They're our Premier League team. They lost, but they're still in the middle of the pack. Okay, Aston Villa is actually farther down, so I'm happy for that. I hope they don't win another game until Randy Lerner sells that team. So I'm beating a dead horse there. Okay, but this is what I want to talk about. Columbus Blue Jackets. Season started on October 5th or 6th.
Now, last week they were what, 0-5?
They're 0-5. And since we talked last week, they're now 0-7. Okay, it's an 82-game season, and they are 0-7. What do you do when you're 0-7 and you're the Columbus Blue Jackets? They're an expansion team from the 90s.
Fire the coach?
Yep, they fired their coach this week. They have already fired their coach. And did you know who their coach was?
No.
No. I did not know who their coach was either. So, again, in the grand scheme of things, sports doesn't matter. But
doesn't matter now.
We picked 110% the wrong team this year. The Columbus Blue Jackets was not the team to pick.
Do you know what their record was last year?
I don't know what it was, but I know they were around the 8th playoff spot.
Yeah.
And again, the top 8 in the East go, the top 8 in the West go, and they were around the 8th seed, right? Because they were all like, "Oh, Columbus fever." Well, what?
And it's 82 games.
82 games.
Just like basketball.
Maybe it's 78. It doesn't matter. It's about 80 games. So you're 7 games in. You're 0-7. You already fired the coach. So that means you're screwed. Okay, if you fire the coach 0-7. Your season's over. And some of the preseason stuff I did see because they're around the Detroit Red Wings. They had Detroit, I think it was an SI, around seed 7 or 8, and they had Columbus around seed 7 or 8. So they weren't like, hey, they're going to the Stanley Cup. Who are the teams who keep going? Chicago keeps going. LA Kings keep going. They weren't saying they were going to be a great team.
Now, you like the Red Wings, right?
I like the Red Wings, but like I said, we're adopting a new team this year. So deep in my heart, because it reminds me of my grandparents in Detroit, I always want Detroit to do well, right? But this year we're adopting the Blue Devils. Well, they fired their coach and they brought in a guy, and he looks just like Fonzie from Happy Days. Now, because you are a classic TV nut, you know who that is.
Yeah.
Right? And he used to coach Tampa Bay. He used to coach New York Rangers. He's been around the block. He's been to the Stanley Cup. He's a really good coach. Okay?
Does he wear a leather jacket?
No, but you know what? He should show up to the press conference in a leather jacket. And then that would work out perfectly. now Columbus has a new, symbol. It'll be like, hey.
So that's who Columbus hired?
Yeah, they hired Fonzie. It's John Tortula or Tortolina or.
So is it safe to say that
Tortula.
Columbus has jumped the shark?
I'm wondering. I think Joe is afraid of us now. I think he's afraid, and that's yeah. You can go ahead. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about hockey today, and I don't want to delve into Russian hockey for too long. So we're gonna stay with the Blue Jackets. I also ripped out an article here. It was by Chris Nyland, and in the '90s he was a what you would call a goon, and he wrote in SI just this week. No, I take that back. I'm looking at the date. 3 weeks ago. Name of the article is "The Fog of the Fight." And he was a goon, and basically he said you should take fighting out of hockey. And I keep seeing this article, take fighting out of hockey. Well, I think it's nice that he made a living fighting in hockey. He probably did not have enough skills to do squat. And now that he's already made his 10 million or 5 million or whatever, he wants hockey. The thing is, you have to fight in hockey. You don't have to fight every drop of the puck, okay? But if you don't fight a little bit, then you get these little chippy guys. You gotta have. You don't have to have an enforcer, but you have to have the ability to have a release valve in hockey.
I think that this happens a lot in different businesses. I think guys feel guilty for the way they made their money.
Yeah.
And then they decide to punish everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, like we were talking about corporations. So I made $100 million as a CEO of this corporation, but then I left. Now I want to save the earth.
Yeah.
Well, where was that 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, I made my money.
Well, I was busy making money.
I was busy making money. Not ready to save the earth. It's on to my next challenge. And like I said, I don't have anything against Chris Nyland, okay? But, he's talking about his other goons who had died. And it's like, well, and we talked about this one of our earlier episodes. In boxing, the point is to knock out the other guy, right? Well, they were rewarded handsomely for hitting the other guy in the head. Now, they're like, oh, who would have known boxing was dangerous? Oh, you mean punching another guy in the head was dangerous? And now in the article, they're like, oh, well, now they have research that punching somebody in the head over and over again was bad for you. That did not cross the plate of ideas that you had in the 90s when you were fighting. You would go out, drop the puck, and just fight. Okay? I understand why it's in the game. Now, I agree you shouldn't have fighting every game. There shouldn't be goons. There should be a certain skill set. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you can't take it all the way out of hockey because then you have incidents where, they get mad and then they swing the sticks at each other like animals. You know what I mean? If you don't fight, then people do stupid things like that. Now, Ted's nodding his head, yes. It rubs me the wrong way. Now, say it was some other person who says, say it was a writer who said, I don't think we should have fights in hockey. Well, why not? Well, because of this, and this. That's fine. He didn't make $5 million fighting in the NHL. And again, it's all revisionist history. I don't know how you could have not known that being a goon was not good for your long-term health. And they're like, oh, well, Gordie Howe lived to 80. Well, Gordie Howe very rarely fought. He fought once in a while. But again, only as a release.
And that guy played forever, right?
Oh, yeah, he played too. He was like 52 years old. And his son, Mark Howe, I believe, played for the Red Wings also. But he wasn't that great. He wasn't like he wasn't like Gordie. He wasn't an Iron Man. Ted's reading the article right now. Ted, do you want to know how good that is for radio, or should I keep that to myself?
Can you keep it down over there?
Concentrate. Why are you making all this noise? We're making an awful lot of noise for a quiet office. But that's why I can't get over. And again, that's fine. Say, you know what? I'm giving back my $5 million. Well, this guy would probably say, well, I need the $5 million to fight off all my head problems. Well, then, say you lived to 80, but you worked at UPS down the street. You didn't make 5 million a whole year. You get a long life. It's almost like the deal with the devil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And me and you talk about deals with the devil all the time because it's like whenever somebody wants something, there's always something. Hey, will you do this for money? And then usually when you have to do something for money, it's something you don't want to do. That's why it's nice to make $100 million and then decide you want to save the planet after the fact.
Mhm.
There's very few true people like, Mother Teresa, God
Yeah,
rest her soul.
she was the real deal.
Yeah, she was real. Very few people are like, oh no, I'm poor and I want to help the poor. Not, I made 100 million, now I want to help the poor
Yeah.
after the fact. So, and another thing, talking about rich people wanting to save the world, Steve Jobs, I think they got the third movie coming out about Steve Jobs. And it's like, you know what, at some point, there's got to be some sort of end to that hero worship.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, we're doing this on an Apple, right? And I cannot be happier with this MacBook Pro. This MacBook Pro is awesome, okay? But my Ford out there, I don't talk about how awesome Henry Ford is all the time, like they talk about Steve Jobs.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can look up on the internet about how Henry Ford was SOB,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I've had it up to here hearing about how great Steve Jobs was. I'm like, yeah, it's a great MacBook Pro, thank you. Well, he changed when everything was done. So do you think we should ask Joe if he's coming in here? I really think he is purposely avoiding us.
Yeah. Is he up here
I
somewhere?
don't know. Because I'm starting to have a complex that we have the empty Joe chair and he's not coming in.
I haven't heard any pounding in a while.
Yeah, I know. Maybe he gave up. Maybe he was gonna come in and then we scared him off with our loud voices. Should we knock? Here. Let me look. Here, tell me a good story while I text him. Okay, I'm texting. Joe, where are you? I can't text fast because I'm old. I'm not
Well,
like
it doesn't
a
matter.
13-year-old girl.
These phones, it'll probably take him an hour to get that text.
Yes, I cannot point out enough that I have a flip phone and the messages.
The show will be over by the time.
The show is over, and then he's like, "Oh, I forgot about your show." I don't know how he can forget about the show. He can hear us. I don't know why he's not coming in. Okay, send to Joe. And again, riveting radio. Okay. Now, oh crap. Did I send that to Joe or did I send that to somebody else? See, again, I'm not a 13-year-old
Probably
girl.
send it to your wife.
Yeah. Hey, are you Joe? It should probably text me back. I'm not Joe. So anyhow, so I'm looking at the outline, and so the main thing is that we picked the wrong team. Columbus is getting a good fiery coach, and
Fonzie, right?
and you don't care. All right, predictions. You'll get a kick out of this. Prediction sheet form.
No.
And again, we try to make 3 predictions every week. I don't have any that are doing. I don't have any that are coming up today. View. Yeah, what's...
What does it say?
Yeah, it says, yeah, what's going on? Hey, are you coming in here or not, Joe? And now I'm just going to yell. I'm going to pretend like it's the Stone Age. It's like we're communicating with bricks and rocks. So anyhow, prediction sheet form today is for next week. My number 1 prediction is Paranormal Activity 6 will make less than $4 million this weekend. And
It's the 6th one?
the 6th one. And that's the question
Have
I
you
have.
seen any of those?
No, and that's where I'm going with this. When I was a kid, and I use kid loosely, I mean when I was a teenager, I saw like 8 of the 10 Friday the 13th. I saw every...
Halloween?
No, I only saw half the Halloweens. I saw... What's Nightmare on Elm Street? I saw all of those, even the horrible ones. I'm sitting there, I'm the first one in line, right? And now that I'm old... And I can tell you, again, just like the exact moment I started to hate corporations was with Dennis, is I can tell you the exact moment that horror movies just freak me out. right? When I was a kid, I'm like, oh no, horror movie, and you got the blanket up by your
I'm
eyeball.
still like it.
But there's a scene in Night of a Thousand Corpses by Rob Zombie where the guy is going to execute the sheriff. The crazy guy is going to execute the sheriff. And you can hear him like whimpering, and he's just sitting there making him suffer, and then he executes him after like 20 seconds. And it like freaked me out. And I'm like, Rob Zombie is like a master of holding the scene, right? But after that, now horror movies like freak me out, and I'm like, oh, there really are people like that, like in the Night of our House of a Thousand Corpses. And that's why I'm like, so now I can't watch horror movies like I used to. So I have seen zero Paranormal Activities.
So in other words, you're basically afraid to see those.
Yes, because
Yeah.
I am a coward.
No, so am I. I agree.
But my whole thing is that Nightmare on Elm Street, it was a marketing machine. It basically, Freddy Krueger made New Line Cinema, right? And every one of those Friday the 13th movies, what they did is they just slapped the Freddy mask up there, and it made, $20 million, $50 million, whatever. It's just like Iron Maiden. They made, 15, 20 albums. All you do is you put Eddie on the cover, and you just sold, 1 million albums. Not anymore, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Paranormal Activity, who's the ghost? You know what I mean? How do you market your movie? Oh, it's a brand new story. Well, how do you market a brand new story and then keep rolling them out and expect people to watch them?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I can't believe they made 6. Now, I have seen some horror movies, because I tried, but I saw Lazarus Effect, right?
Yeah.
And that came out about 6 months ago, because now it's on DVD. And now, Lazarus Effect, I got so freaked out. I had my first, go to the hospital panic attack watching a horror movie. I saw the movie Devil.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That was
Yeah.
your first one? That was...
Well, the first one that I went to the hospital for. Because I couldn't
and
calm
that
down.
That was what set it off?
Yeah. Because the devil, there's 5 guys. They're all stuck in the elevator, right? And one of them's the devil, right? Well, the lights go out, and one person's dead, and the other 4, which one of you is the devil? Right? It's like, oh, this is, and I couldn't calm down. They couldn't calm me down, go to the hospital. I'm walking around in circles. They're like, please, sir, sit down. I'm like, I'm fine. But, yeah, so I can't watch the horror movies, but I don't know how Paranormal Activity markets their movies. There is no Freddy Krueger. There is no face of the franchise. They don't, how can you market it? And the other business aspect, and the reason I brought it up is because of business. They said that there's some deal between the studio and Netflix or AT&T Uverse, right? Where the movie is going straight to on demand, instead of waiting 6 months like a normal movie,
Yeah.
it's 3 weeks later or something. And so some theaters are boycotting the movie because it undermines their ability to sell $12 tickets.
Yeah.
Right? Well, guess what? If you didn't sell $12 tickets, maybe you'd have full theaters.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the analogy of
So people are just basically saying, why should I spend that much money when it's going to be out
in 3 weeks anyhow. Yeah, so my prediction is Paranormal Activity will make under $4 million. Now, again, you can make fun of me because I'm a wuss, and I can't watch horror movies anymore.
Believe me, I'm
But-
the same way. I would not.
But the
watch
reason
that.
I'm making the prediction is because of the business model. Well, they're all a little bit in the wrong because, again, and I use this analogy all the time. The Cleveland Plain Dealer, right? Yeah, I think it's now $1 to buy, right? Well, whatever it used to be
I shrugged my shoulders.
every time they lose circulation, they push the price up. And as they lose more circulation, they push the price up and they have less content. Well, people get mad, especially old people, and they're like, we're not going to read the newspaper. And then it's free online, so why would you buy it? And then they go from 7 to 3 days, and they keep losing circulation, and they're like, we don't understand why we're losing circulation. We have less content, we have less days of the week, and we charge more. That's why you're losing content. And it's the same thing with movie theaters. They're like, why don't people want to come to theaters? Well, because you have $5 popcorn and $12 tickets. Even though I take that back, it's like $9 in Cleveland. I think it's more in other places. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the principle of pay more for less. Pay more for less. Well, that's how we'll make more money. Pay more for less. And yeah, and me and Ted, we have an inside joke. We're pointing to each other and pointing in circles. But that's the whole point. And corporations are like, well, how are we gonna hit our profit margins for the investors? Well, at some point you have to worry about your business plan or your business line.
Like, what did you say? Like maybe about a month ago, a downward trend can't last forever, or something like that.
Oh yeah, well it's the downward trend. The downward trend that I use is you can't keep raising prices and losing customers, because at some point it's a zero-sum game. Nobody's going to pay, $10 for a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll use the newspaper analogy just so we don't use the analogy that I'm pointing at right now. You see what I'm saying? And that's why if you're now don't get me wrong, this is America. We're not communists, all right? But at some point you have to stop putting your finger in the dike, and the Holland analogy, not the other one. Okay, but you gotta stop putting your finger in the dike and make a real plan. You know what I mean? Ted's itching his face. He's looking at me like I'm crazy. So that is my prediction. We will see, because under 4 million, that's not good. That's not good for a brand new a movie who people are familiar with. Because even though you've never seen Paranormal Activity, you've seen commercials.
Yeah, I'll be honest
with
with you. I even, and this is true, I even turn away when the commercial comes on. I do not want to see it.
See, now you're like my 9-year-old son, and it goes back to the circle of life. We're back to being 10-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm scared of that movie. I can't.
Well, I never stopped being a 10-year-old.
Yeah, there is no circle.
Yeah,
for
there's
10.
no circle.
It is a flat line that just keeps going and going. So let's see. I got that. I had one other thing I wanted to talk about, and then I'm going to set this off to the side. Did you want to make a prediction while I'm putting this away so I don't forget?
No. Now, one of the things I was going to ask you, you predicted it would not make 4 million.
It would not make 4 million.
Now, like, there's some movies that make that like in the first weekend, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There's movies that make 20, 30, these blockbuster movies, like Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me, but I think Iron Man 3 made like 75 million the first weekend.
Oh wow.
And so I'm talking about franchises.
So you're saying total, it won't.
Well, it won't make more than, let's put it this way. It won't make more than 4 million opening weekend, and it won't make over 10 million total.
Okay.
Now, I can't imagine at the theaters. But
yeah, I understand.
Again, but me and you aren't there. Me and you aren't in there talking, to the executives. Maybe for $10 million, they sold it to, I want to say it's AT&T Uverse, but I could be wrong. It could be Crackle, it could be Netflix, it could be Dish, it could be On Demand. I don't know. I just know maybe somebody stepped up and said, we want Paranormal Activity 6 to move eyeballs to our site, and we're going to give you $10 million. And then they're like, well, if we make $10 million here guaranteed, and then we make $10 million at the theater, we still get ahead. We're in the black. But I don't know.
Not to like go off on a tangent, but did you ever see Blair Witch?
Oh yeah.
Okay. See, because I never saw that either.
Oh, hey, I okay.
I mean, was that? Could you handle that, or?
Let me tell you something. We'll talk about that real quick. Now, I'm going to digress and then I'll answer your question. I made a movie. Ted was in it. And it was me and a bunch of our friends. Joe was in it. Joe the Empty Chair. Okay? And it's called Blasphemers. It's not the best movie. It only cost $4,000, right? But for what it was, I liked it. It's about indoor soccer, right? You can watch it for free. It's called blasphemersthemovie.com. You can watch it for free today, right?
All right.
and I watched online. I edited it. I did, but like I said, it's a little rough. It's a diamond in the rough. So you know what me and you did, right? Because you saw it. Now, if you're listening, you didn't see the movie, but I'm going to explain to Ted. One of the things that when we made Blasphemers, I was worried about was the lighting. Okay, specifically because of Blair Witch Project. Okay, Blair Witch Project was made for only a little bit more than Blasphemers was, right? And what they did is they paid the actors. So I apologize because I had to pay you guys in T-shirts. They paid the actors, the 3 stars, $500 each. And then they basically took them in the woods and they tortured them. They chased them around, made scary noises, made them cry. But they knew, something was going on. They didn't know exactly what was going on, but they knew something was going on. It is, say the movie's an hour and a half long, it is 120 minutes of basically looking at a black screen with people with flashlights on their face around the Cub Scout campfire.
Yeah.
I mean, it is that horribly lit. And then at the end, when the Blair Witch is coming, right, you assume that there's going to be a payoff because you just watched basically a black screen for an hour and 20 minutes and there's no payoff. And you're like, somebody just stole, well, back then, it would have been 20 years ago, somebody just stole $6 from you. Like, one of my favorite cartoons is Clerks the Cartoon, right? And there's a scene in Clerks the Cartoon where Randall is cross-examining all these directors of all these movies that he hated, right? And he's like, you owe me $6. He goes, that movie had no plot. Well, it's the same thing with Blair Witch. I wanted to find that director. That movie made $200 million or whatever it was. They made money hand over fist. I want my $6 back. I wish I could put that guy on trial. There is no movie I've ever seen in my life where I wanted my money back that bad as Blair Witch Project. Because I could tell, Ted, right now, look at me, now close your eyes. Chomp, 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 chomp. Oh no, the Blair Witch is coming. Ted, that is the Blair Witch Project right there.
So it wasn't even scary? I mean, you weren't...
Well, it's not scary. It's more like tense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why I want my money back.
Yeah.
And you didn't miss anything because I just saved you $6 by, recreating it. And you got to see the smile on Ted's face because he knows he just saved $6. Good job, Ted. You saved $6.
I win again.
You win. Ted, you're a winner. So okay.
I'll put that with the $48 I saved from the six other movies.
Oh, yeah, the 6 paranormal activity. No, trust me, Ted. I want to watch horror movies. I'm telling you, there's gonna be a day like that video where we're watching Clones by Evil Blizzard. There's gonna be a day where I can't listen to metal anymore, and I might as well just lop my own head off because, the metal is, once that goes, I'm just gonna be like, gum and jello and stuff. You know what I mean? Because it'll just be over. But yeah, I'm looking over my outline. The only other thing, since we were talking about movies, if you'll indulge me real quick, I saw probably the second best documentary I ever saw in my life last week. And it was on Netflix, and it was called Ukraine Winter on Fire. Again, for some reason, we have this Russia theme.
Yeah.
Okay, and it came to Netflix, and it had like 5 stars. Everybody said it was a great movie. And basically what happened is... I believe it was 2014.
And this Russia thing isn't planned. It just keeps...
No, it just keeps popping up. Apparently it's on my mind, so
Yeah.
I apologize. I'll try and think of Canada. Pierre Trudeau's son, he got elected this week, so maybe we can talk about Canada next week. I'll concentrate on... And we talk a lot about hockey, so maybe we'll talk about Canada next week. But Ukraine on Winter on Fire... it's the story about how Ukraine has been independent since 1991, right? And their president of the independent Ukraine was all ready to join the EU, the European Union. And right before they voted, I can't remember if it was a day or a week or whatever, before the vote, the guy said, you know what? I don't want to join the EU. You know who's really cool? Putin. And we're just going to get closer to Russia. Well, why declare independence from Russia if you want to get closer to Russia?
Yeah.
So all the people were furious. And they went to the Capitol and they were peacefully protesting. Well, again, this is not America. There is no First Amendment freedom of speech, right? So slowly they are trying to undermine the protesters, right? They would have after a couple of days, the protests got bigger and bigger, and like Tiananmen Square, once they got so big, they started to get out of hand. Whenever you have a group of people, just logistically, toilet paper, snacks, whatever. Logistically, you're going to have surly people, right? And Ukraine on Fire was one of the peaceful protesters. Every day he'd bring the camera out and he'd be like, this is what I see. We yearn for freedom, which is refreshing that people yearn and they're willing to protest for freedom. In America, you can, unless you're protesting for something for yourself, people, there's always an agenda.
Yeah.
All the Ukrainians wanted was freedom, at least according to Ukraine Winter on Fire, right? Well, after it got too big, out come the cops, right? And, the riot police, you've seen the pictures, the helmets, but then they went from wood batons to steel batons. Well, that hurts more.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got out the rubber bullets. And then they got out the live rounds because it's not America. It's because it's the Ukraine. And, and it was funny because in America, the cops, when they beat on people, in these protests, it seemed fairly even-handed, right? They would chase people and then beat them. Well, in the Ukraine and in Winter on Fire, it seemed like one guy would trip on his feet and then they'd stop chasing the crowd and they would beat like there's 10 of them beating on one guy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, now you're screwed. It's like the lion picking off the gazelles.
Yeah.
It's like, well, once you're out of the pack, you are screwed.
Yeah.
You're the one going to jail after we beat the crap out of you. So, so then they started firing rubber bullets, and they started firing live rounds.
I'm laughing, and that guy's probably dead now.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. At the end, I don't want to spoil the end, but I'll tell you the end because it's a documentary. They said X amount of people were killed, X amount of people were injured during the 3 months of Winter on Fire.
During the making of this riot.
Yeah, during the
making of this protest.
Well, again, now don't get me wrong. Some of them are dirty Ukrainian hippies, right? Now, if we're in America, you have friends who'd be like, dirty hippie, right? Well, in Ukraine, there's a few dirty hippies. There just was. But most of the people seem like they genuinely just yearn for Western-style freedom.
Yeah.
Well, we're in America and be like, oh, well, so you want to be self-obsessed Kardashian lovers. So, no, they yearn for real freedom. You know what I mean? So the movie, the spirit of the movie is very noble. And that's why I felt like I had to bring it up because, again, our premise is freedom of speech. And again, I haven't read the Ukrainian Declaration of Independence or whatever. Maybe number one is freedom of speech over there.
So Ukraine was part of the old Soviet
Oh,
Union,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. But again, politics in Russia is like an R-rated sport. It's not PG like here, right? And they're like, oh, no, we're sick. No. In Russia, 10,000 people oppose. How many times have you gone out and 10,000 Democrats just disappeared, right? It hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Russia, the opposing political party, you wake up and 10,000 members of the opposite party is gone. Where do they go? Talk about where they go, right? And that's why, if you get a chance, Ted, I know you don't have Netflix. You have
nothing.
You have nothing. No, you have WoW.
I
you
have cable.
Yeah, you have cable. Yeah, cable doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which cable. I shouldn't say. WoW might be better or worse than Time Warner, but it's still a basic concept of cable, right? But oh, see, now I lost my train of thought. If you get a chance, watch Ukraine Winter on Fire. But I don't know if you'll ever have the chance. I don't know if it'll ever be big enough because I saw it on Netflix. And I think they only have like a month contract or 6 month. Like some things on Netflix are only there for a month. So I'm, again, going back to the business model. I don't know if they gave them $500,000 for 1 month or $10,000 for a month. And then, or if they're like, oh, we have it for a whole year. You know what I mean? They as far as I know, they don't print out. you know how movie theater you hear this movie made 75 million. You know, we were talking about Iron Man 3. I don't think there's a Netflix thing that says 20 million people watch Walking Dead, or we paid Walking Dead $10 million to show season 3. I don't think they release that. Now they have those numbers, but I don't think they share it with us. And again, it's not a freedom of speech thing. It's that's our corporate policy. You know, we do, and if we tell you, then we lose our competitive disadvantage. You know, in the marketplace.
So you watched this last night, or
no? It was earlier this week. So, but yeah, that's why I said you should get that chance. If Joe the Empty Chair, you need to watch Ukraine Winter on Fire. See, I just heard him. I don't know if somebody was coming or going, but so that's why, you know, we'll have to twist his arm and do it. We got to the end time that we were going to aim for, and I'll just talk about Ukraine for another 20 minutes if you don't stop me. So, no more predictions. Are you sure you don't want to make a prediction before we tie this up?
No.
Do you want to predict that we will have another episode? Tentatively, we will do the next one for next Thursday. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah, I'll predict that. I believe that will happen.
You believe that will happen? We will not. Okay, well, hopefully I do not get hit by a bus or whatever I thought, you know, would happen to Dennis back in the day. And Dennis can sue me if he ever hears this webcast, because Dennis was one of the biggest a-holes you ever want to meet in your whole life. So he can suck it. I'll see him in court. He's probably looking for a revenue stream anyhow.
That 100.